do so as Muslims living in the land of the kuffar. Our true place of dwelling should be the land of Islam. And someone asked about hijrah. Oh yes, my brothers and sisters, hijrah is an obligation upon us to leave the land of the unbelievers and to leave and to return to the land of Iman. But if we live here under some legitimate reason that Allah has accepted in the Sharia, and in fact the only, not the only, but anyway, the most important reason that the scholars mentioned, and perhaps one of the only real excuses, except perhaps you are a refugee or you're looking for medical treatment or you're here temporarily on business. Otherwise, the only reason the ulama mentioned that you should be in the land of the kuffar is to give da'wah. As for those people who emigrated here to get more money and have a more comfortable life, this is not what hijrah is. Hijrah is for Allah and His Messenger. Whoever made hijrah to get married, or whoever made hijrah for some money or a comfortable life, their hijrah is for what they intended. You all know that hadith. Hijrah in Islam is for Allah and His Messenger, from the lands of disbelief to the lands of Islam. That is an obligation upon us. But if we are here to study, or to do some trade, or even as refugees, or we are here to give da'wah, then we live in these countries under an agreement between us and the governments and the people of these countries. Even though we did not sign a paper saying, this is my agreement, this is what we are... No, but this agreement is understood. It is an understood agreement. It is a tacit agreement. It's there, it's not written, but it's understood. And that agreement is... And it's quite an amazing agreement if you think about it. It's a very good agreement. They say to us, you are free to live here. They might even give us money to live here. They might even give us social security. Is that what you call it? Huh? We call it that in England. It's social security, man. Oh. Huh? What? Centrelink. Centrelink. Right. Okay. Great. Fantastic. They get Centrelink, right? Okay. So anyway, amazing, right? So you can come here. Maybe they'll even give you a house. You can pray. You can build mosques. You can have schools. And you know what? You can even stand up and say, I don't like your system. I don't like democracy. I don't like your way of life. I don't like your religion, Christianity. I like Islam. You should be Muslim. They even let us try and convert them to Islam. And in fact, they've even got laws to protect us to do that. But they are not going to accept that you are going to fight them. They are not going to accept that you are going to commit acts of violence against them, whether in this country or somewhere else. Brothers and sisters, I ask you to think about this. It's something I thought about. Imagine we had now a Muslim land. And in that Muslim land we had Jews and we had Christians who were living there, paying the jizya, living in the land. And we were protecting them with our armies. That's what we do. And they're free to live, go to the church, practice their religion as Islam lets them do that. But we find that amongst these Jews and Christians, there are people who are going off to another land and fighting against us. And then they come back to the Muslim land, come back to their families for a bit, and then they go off and they fight against us. I want to ask you, will any one of us accept that? Will anyone accept that? Will we accept that as Muslims? What would we do with those people? Would we not say they have betrayed the trust? We let them live in our land, they took the jizya, our armies protected them, and they went and fought against us? We will not accept that from them. Why do you think that they should accept that from us? Is this not betraying a trust? Is this not being treacherous to an agreement that you have made? They do not force you to live here. They do not build barriers and say, you've got to stay here, you cannot go. My God, they might even help you to go if you want to go. You're not forced to be here. You don't have to stay in this land. If you want to go, you can go. So brothers and sisters, that is important to understand. We are free, alhamdulillah, to give da'wah. And that is what our task must be. That is our duty. Brothers and sisters, don't concern yourself too much with whether the government of Saudi Arabia, of Egypt, of Tunisia, or any other country, whether they're kafir, whether they're this, whether they're that. And we talk about jihad, and let's, oh brother, and this and that, and we talk about jihad. Yet our next door neighbor is a kafir, and we never talk to them, and we never gave them da'wah. The people who work in our office, we never talk to them, and we never gave them da'wah. We never call these people to Islam. But we're so worried about what's going on everywhere. You know the thing is, the truth is, you are liars and hypocrites. You're not really worried about what's going on. It's just an excuse for you to be lazy. That's what it is. It's so easy to talk about what's going on everywhere in the rest of the world. But the things you have to deal with, the things that Allah made an obligation upon you to deal with, why don't you do that? Why don't you give da'wah? Why don't you spend your time and your money calling the people to La ilaha illallah? You know why? Because we like an easy life. We like to make lots of excuses. We like to think we're big and tough and strong, and what great, big, strong Muslims we are. But the reality is, that's not the truth. The reality is we're running away from our true responsibilities. Wallahi, you see the people who really care about Islam, who really care about their duty as Muslims living in the land of kafir, most of the time they're too busy to bother about the bickering of one Muslim with another. They're too busy to sit down for hours talking about whether King Fahd is a kafir or whether this person is a kafir or what. They don't have time for that because they're busy calling the people to Islam right here. You don't live there, you live here, brothers and sisters. So deal with the issue in front of you. That's what Allah wants you to do. Allah is not going to ask you about that. He's not going to ask you about that. He will ask you, however, about your next door neighbor. He will ask you about the people who you went to work with. He will ask you about the people you met and the people you talk with and the people you live with. He will ask you whether you told them about Islam or not. That is what Allah will question you about, brothers and sisters. That is your duty and that is your responsibility. And I have found, whether it is in England or Canada or here, most of the people are not fulfilling their duties to Allah. We are living in reality, brothers and sisters, a type of lie. A type of lie. And we are only fooling ourselves. We are not fooling Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So brothers and sisters, this is your responsibility. This is what you should concentrate your efforts on. I am not saying we should not be concerned about the Muslims. Of course we are concerned about the Muslims. But what we need to be concerned about mostly, 99% of our time, is these things. This is what Allah wants from us, brothers and sisters. And we help our Muslim brothers and sisters where we can. But the thing and our duty and our task is to do that. There's a good question here. Do we form brotherhood, sisterhood relationships with those Muslims who do not practice Islam? It's funny because we were talking about that in the car just today as we were driving up to the Blue Mountains. MashaAllah, very beautiful. Alhamdulillah. How many steps did we walk up? SubhanAllah. What a killer. Okay. Alhamdulillah. Is Muhammad still there? Is he still awake? Okay, inshallah, good. Okay, so what do you mean? What does it mean, practice Islam? Anyway, one of my lectures is going to be about prayer and the importance of prayer. It's called Pray Before You Are Prayed Upon. So inshallah I will cover that issue in that lecture. But I want to say generally about this question is that yes, most certainly, brothers and sisters, this is not a time to turn our backs on our Muslim brothers and sisters. This is a time where we have to do our best to bring our brothers and sisters to Islam. Because if we lived in a place where Islam was very strong and everybody was Muslim and most people were practicing Islam, if we left a brother or we left a sister because they were a fasik and they were bad, then that person would feel that he or she is all alone in the world. And they will be inclined to turn back to Islam. But today, if you turn your back on a Muslim, what is that person going to do? They will find the kuffar with their arms open. Yeah, come. Let's have a pint, let's have a drink, that's good. Come on, let's smoke something, let's do something, let's go to the movies, let's go and find some girls, let's. That's what will happen. So, unless you are really afraid for yourself, that if you mix with that person, that you will get corrupted yourself, then of course you keep away. But otherwise we have to, really the brotherhood and the sisterhood, if someone is not practicing, we have to try to bring them to Islam. And you're going to do that with kindness, with softness, with gentleness, with being good to them, with advising them, and showing them really that you are their brother and sister in Islam. That's what we need to do, inshallah, to strengthen ourselves. Alhamdulillah. Okay, brothers and sisters, I think that there's some nice questions here. There's one question here, it's a very good question, about someone who wants to become a police officer. And some people say it's haram. And he really wants to do it and help the Muslim community, and is asking, is it allowed or not? Actually, this is not a simple question to answer. It is not simple to say it is haram. It is not that simple. It may seem very clear. Joining the police is haram. You are implementing the laws other than the laws of Allah. On the surface, we have to admit that that's pretty much true. I have to think, how could a Muslim be a police officer or something like that? It means you're involved in something that would seem to be very haram. But in Islam, we do have a principle of maslaha and mafsada. This is necessity and need. In Islam, we have a manner of weighing up the benefits. If there is sometimes an exceeding benefit in something, even though it involves something haram, that thing can become permissible. I'll give you an example. Even though democracy is not allowed in Islam, and that is not our ruling system, but there are instances in Muslim countries where they have tried to introduce some type of democracy, like Kuwait, for example. If the Muslims, the good pious Muslims, do not go into parliament there, then the parliament will be full of atheists, communists, secularists, and every deviated group and every deviated person, who will only call the people to the hellfire. And the country, as a result, will fall into more corruption. So some of the scholars, not all of them, this again you'll find a difference of opinion, but some of the ulama said, no, you must go into parliament and you must try to influence it and influence the country in a beneficial way, because they realize that that is something that could be achieved. So things are not always black and white. Sometimes you will find in some situations there is a grey area. I don't know enough about Australia and the Australian police force and the Muslims here in Australia, and what are the needs and what are the requirements and so on and so forth. I don't know enough about that to be able to really direct you. This is something you need to go with all of that information to a trustworthy scholar to get a fatwa from. So the brother who asked this question, could even be the sister, but inshallah it's a brother, who asked this question, should go to a trustworthy scholar, inshallah, to get a fatwa, because I'm not capable of giving you a fatwa. Only to say that it's not always a black and white issue. What? I think there's lots, brothers and sisters, lots of good questions. Some of them I've sort of already covered, so if you think about what I said, inshallah, you will, inshallah, get the benefit from that. I've got even some... I'm not going to answer that question, because we stick to the ones on the topic. So brothers and sisters, inshallah, I think that's about it for tonight, inshallah. You forgive me if I stop now, inshallah. The brothers are asking, please, brother, ask for donations. They're saying at least $1 each. It's not a lot. So the brothers, inshallah, I know they're trying to do some really good and important work. So brothers and sisters, inshallah, jazakallah khair. May Allah guide you and me and all of us closer to the